Hello, everyone. This is the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna, aka Alinko. Today is December 29th, 2021. The year is coming to an end slowly. Has it not already? I think in 2 days will be 2 or 3 days will be in 2022. How grateful we are to the Almighty for keeping us up until this time. Look, if you're in Chicago or anywhere in this world, I am sure you're hearing about that person being sick, or this person just caught a flu, or my family member just is not feeling well. I think that has been the conversation for this month, at least this December, if not starting from November. And for those of you who have been very familiar with the Progressive Minds, you can tell in my energy, I'm down too, so I have, but I'm doing better now, thank God. Last week was worse. Today I'm grateful that I have my strength and it's coming back as usual. So we really really want to appreciate you all for joining us this evening. This is the number one community building show where we have conversations like this in order to make our communities better. This evening we're going to be talking to two experts who, at least in the area of health. One is a medical physician. The other is, should I say, a naturopathic doctor? But we'll find out. We'll find out. Okay, we'll find out. Don't call me on that. Stay tuned. You want to share this feed on Facebook and on YouTube. We are live on those channels. We are also being carried by My Star radio station. It's a Pan-African radio station out there on the East Coast. We are working on other syndications, so please stay with the Progressive Minds as we work week in, week in to bring you very important and productive topics. Right, by now we will go straight to our audience, but before that, we'll take this short break. When we come back, the show will continue. We shall be right back. And we are back. So let's go to my guest this evening as we talk about the holiday seasons. We want to let our viewers understand that this is a special one because we had an agreement with Bite Wellness, which is founded and owned by Dr. MAWUSI ARNETT. Okay, if you're Ghanaian, Dr. MAWUSI, she's not Ghanaian; she's African American. But she has this awareness, which is outstanding. Now that's very close to me because my sister, those of you who know me, that my sister is Mausia, and so she is on the show today. She owns Bite Wellness. We agreed to do this show together because around this time she also has a podcast and she talks about health issues and other things. So you want to check out her podcast, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. But she likes to go by Wusi, but I just call her Dr. MAWUSI. ARNETT is a physician, medical doctor at Northwestern Hospital. She's also, like I said, founder of Bite Wellness. Dr. MAWUSI, you're welcome to the Progressive Mind Show.
So glad to be here. Thanks a lot, Alinko, for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
My pleasure. And next to her is T.S. Douglas. T.S. Douglas is also the owner of Fresh, Raw, and Natural. It's a holistic company, right? And you work on, okay, it's a wellness type of company too, right?
Well, we're centered around shakes and juices that focuses on cellular health. So we're governed by plant specific, absorption ready, and nutrient complete. So if you take those things and you get everything in that one shot, basically you're getting all of the vitamins, minerals, and the nutrients you need that we typically lack because of deficiencies.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for sharing with us. And we are so honored for having you on this platform this evening. I know that at the end of the day, we will be doing best in breaking down the reason why we're here, which is our health and the holidays. Okay, season safety, COVID-19, and Omicron. The conversation is out there, so let's go straight into it. Dr. MAWUSI, can you tell us how long you've been practicing in the city of Chicago as a medical doctor?
Yeah, so I'm from Chicago. I have to say that. Grew up on the South Side. Um, Still visit my parents down in Hyde Park, Kenwood all the time. I finished up my clinical training at one of Northwestern's hospitals called Lake Forest Hospital, so way far in the northern suburbs. I trained in family medicine, so that's 3 years, and I finished in 2019. So I've been seeing patients as a physician since 2016, since the start of residency, but I've been practicing independently with my license and my board certification in family medicine since 2019, since
Mm,
finishing residency. So I'm
mm,
still technically on the newer side.
mhm,
I see patients as a hospitalist at that same hospital up north. And
mhm.
so that means when people are sick enough to come to the hospital and they need to stay overnight, I'm one of the inpatient doctors who takes care of them. So that means I've been seeing a lot of COVID people lately.
Mm. How about you, TS? How long have you been practicing? Uh,
Well, so I'm in education and I teach life sciences. So I teach for City Colleges of Chicago. I've been in education well over 10 years, starting in higher ed. Because I teach life sciences, some of my coursework is anatomy and physiology, microbiology, biology, as well as nutrition. And just going along the pathway, I saw that there was a lack of real information that was within those textbooks of nutrition that needed to marry or come together, the understanding of how to feed cells
mhm,
versus how to feed yourself. And so I kind of created textbooks around that, one on cellular nutrition, another is the science of health that is published through Kendall Hunt. And we use those in classrooms to get you to really understand basically how to feed cells. That's all. My mission is to get people to see how to feed those cells.
how to feed those cells?
Yeah.
She make it sound like these are some animals in the zoo that you have to be feeding all the time.
Yes. One of the things I say in my classrooms, if you can figure out how to feed one, you can figure out how to feed the trillions in which you're made of.
Uh,
So,
okay. See, Dr. Mausi, you being so you work in both, you operate in both orthodox and traditional type of healing methods, right? You practice both. Am I correct if I say that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the way that I would describe it is
Mm,
I created this platform, this digital wellness community called Bite Wellness to bridge the gap that exists in traditional Western healthcare. So, a bunch of doctors agree with me. And if you've ever been a patient, seeing a traditional doc, primary care, etc., you probably know what I'm talking about. You don't always have enough time to get your questions answered. So you might leave there with a new medication and you're not quite sure what the side effects will be. And so you're kind of reluctant to take that med. You might leave there with a new diagnosis and you're not so sure what it means. And you haven't had anyone explain to you in depth uh, how to change your eating, how to change your physical activity habits to make an impact on that diagnosis. And so um, it's a problem, not caused by doctors, not caused by our healthcare institutions per se, but it's just a result of the way that our healthcare system sets up incentives, right? The things that insurance pays for procedures. It doesn't pay very well for talking, even though the science teaches us that learning about things like what TS teaches her students, learning how to feed ourselves for optimal health, learning how to move to create these anti-inflammatory habits, learning how to sleep, um, get quality sleep, right? How to maintain productive social relationships and use effective coping mechanisms for stress. All these are things that have a really important impact on lowering our risk for the chronic diseases that are responsible for killing the majority of Americans,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Right.
So Bite Wellness uh, is only unorthodox is that we focus on counseling and educating, which is something that you don't get in a traditional healthcare setting. But the type of teaching that we get in Bite Wellness is orthodox in that it's evidence based, right? We're still really interested in what the science has to say, what journal articles have to tell us about how these personal habits can affect your outcomes long term. So, really trying to reframe what holistic wellness means, particularly for Black women, but generally for Black folks broadly.
So I think you mentioned the question I was going to ask you. You kind of touched on it regarding cells. Why should we feed our cells? Because for those who try to be health conscious or at least be informed when it comes to health issues, we know we have to boost our immune system. We have to exercise. We have to eat, fresh vegetables and all of that. But I've never heard feeding your cells, the right nutrients and how efficacious it is in our holistic well-being. So you being, as a medical doctor, how can you elaborate a little bit more on the importance of feeding your cells? How significant is? Can you make that connection for us?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to give TS credit for that phrase because I hadn't heard it put exactly like that
Mm,
before
mm,
meeting you. Feed yourselves,
mhm,
which is incredible. Because, we think about feeding ourselves, we think about putting food into our bodies,
mhm.
putting drinks into our bodies, and we're not always thinking about nourishment. So I'd love to hear TS um, give her framing of what feed your cells means. But when I hear it, I think giving your body the smallest living components of your body, your
Mm,
cells,
mm,
giving them what they need to produce, to
mm,
function the way
mm,
that they're supposed to. There are tons of them. They do different things for us. They do amazing things. They are incredibly resilient when they have the right nourishment.
Yes.
And we tend to
Take that for
large,
granted.
yes,
yeah,
take it for
yeah,
granted. And
yeah.
I'll just say one thing, largely because of the way that our food system is structured, right? People want to take
Yes.
care of themselves. They don't always know how.
And they don't
And
know.
usually the first thing you grab or ends up, unfortunately, not usually being something that feeds your cells. So
Right.
I let you take it away too.
Yeah, TS. So we will talk about the immune system, boosting it, and all of that. Um, and there's that conversation is I think is out there, is common. I would say so. But what we're talking about is what we've not heard before. So are there? I'm sure there are two different things. Is one more important than the other, or they just have, or both have to be treated or taken into? Uh, both have to be treated with as much importance.
Yes, like we only see ourselves from physically what we look at in the mirror. And the reality of it is the hierarchy of what we're made of is so complex and beautiful,
Mm,
So this if you can understand how to take care of one cell,
mhm,
right? You can take care of them all. And so the fact of knowing that you want to give your cells the same things in which they're made of for the maintenance, support, growth, and all of those things that come along with keeping something sustained and going for the betterment and like I think Dr. Wusi said, efficacy of it. And so what it is it's cell of my cell. I'm made up of the same things in which plant cells are made up of.
mm,
And if you zoom in on a plant cell and an animal cell, they pretty much, with slight variances, they pretty much they require the same things and they're made up of the same things. And what are those things? The same things you typically say when you talk about foods: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And these are the things we're structurally made up of when it comes to cells. But how
mm,
do we function? Vitamins, minerals, and water. And so we're lacking these things because we're constantly pulling from boxes bags and can. And I'm sorry, I love a good trinity. I will structure, function, purpose, cellular, molecular, microbial you in a minute. So we're pretty much made up of these things. And in order to get those things, we have to meet us where we are on that level. One of the things I say is, if I was a Tesla, I wouldn't go to a Nissan dealer to get my parts. But if I was a Nissan dealer, I wouldn't go to a Tesla, dealership to get my parts either. So it's not necessarily the quality, but it is quality, but it's what it is. I'm going to go to what I need that's going to keep me going. And you have to think of it like this. Once you swallow it, it's all business. It is, we are machines, unfortunately. And so when you do go back to that understanding of feeding your cells, you kind of remove the emotions out of it. You break up with that relationship that you have with food that Dr. Wusi mentioned, that it is available to us on these days. And you start pulling from those things that you say, this is what I'm made of. This is what makes me me on that level. So I'm going to consume that. And it can taste amazing. You play around with plants. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's a beautiful thing.
As we are talking about our health and the holidays, season safety, COVID-19 and Omicron, we'll be touching on certain specifics. We would encourage folks that are watching us on Facebook and on YouTube to share the feed so we can get this word out. I also would like to encourage folks to ring in or share their comments on the feed as we go along. If you have questions or comments, these health professionals will try to explain or respond to them. As we talk about these things, Dr. Wusi, maybe you have, I don't know if you have some statistics out there based off how COVID-19 is just striking people down so far this year. So what are some of the staggering numbers out there in terms of death rates, at least in the state of Illinois?
Yeah. So, you know, let's sort of broaden it and think about
Mm,
how much harm COVID-19 has caused us since it struck
mm,
US soil,
mhm.
right? Early 2020.
Yeah.
Um, so since early 2020 to today, we're right at about uh, 8,000, 819,000, so just under
Wow.
820,000 deaths
In the US.
in the US.
Wow.
That does not include, right, all the hospitalizations, the loss of productivity, the pain, the people who are dealing with some of these long COVID symptoms,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Um, this doesn't even begin to represent the anguish that our communities broadly have had to experience uh, during these last
year or
2
two.
years or
Right.
so. Yeah. Um, so then to put that in perspective, the majority of those deaths have occurred in 2021, more than half. And so we're looking at, in terms of annual deaths from COVID-19, we're barreling down on the number of annual deaths caused by heart attack.
Okay.
We're coming close to
Wow.
that. We're coming close to the number of deaths caused every year by cancer.
Mm,
And we have already surpassed the number of deaths caused every year by unintentional injuries, by Alzheimer's disease, by diabetes, even,
mm,
right? So when you start to think in terms of the diseases that typically take decades to kill people, and now we've got a disease that can strike you and kill you within a matter of days to weeks.
mm,
And our numbers of deaths are surpassing those diseases which have had decades to build. I mean, it's scary,
mm,
which
Yeah.
is why it's so important to have this conversation. I don't think the prevailing narrative should be one of fear
mm,
around COVID-19, despite the stark statistics I just shared. I mean, I think that information should be used as fuel to strategically arm ourselves with as many preventive tools as possible. And so, one of those preventive tools that you guys have heard a ton about is vaccination. Another one of those preventive tools that's in the suite is going to be uh, hand washing, social distancing, masking, and then, of course, taking care of your body so that your immune system, your cells, your immune soldiers, essentially, that army,
Mhm.
is strong enough to do the job that you're asking them to do. But there's a toolbox of lots of different tools that we need.
Okay, thank you. Is it still
Yeah.
hitting the Black community as it was last year when in terms of deaths?
You know what? I actually can't speak to those numbers.
Okay.
Um,
TS, you have been in this industry as well, right?
Yes.
What are you hearing when it comes to minority communities or the Black communities when it comes to COVID-19 and the havoc? Because we know how we attacked the Black community last year, mainly because of underlying conditions, due to lack of malnutrition, poverty,
It's
all of that.
Well, it seems now I'm more so hearing the numbers of people who are getting vaccinated
Uh,
versus the numbers of people who are actually getting COVID. So I think that information is kind of dwindling, or I think people are focusing more on, who's getting vaccinated and those numbers to protect us in that realm
you
versus,
think there are more and more people in the Black communities, minority communities that are open and like and taking the shots now?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
You think it's because we've been hit, I'll say disproportionately when it comes to the number of deaths due to COVID, from COVID? You think there's a
I
reason
just
why? So it's kind of scared people.
I feel like with anything, we will focus on our culture. And
Okay.
so, because of that, we do find those highlighted moments of, whether it's COVID, Ebola, malaria, we will find how does this impact us
Hmm.
when it comes to the numbers?
Okay.
Because it is important,
Mhm.
to us.
All right. We're talking to Dr. MAWUSI with Northwestern Hospital. She's also the owner of Bite to Wellness, and T.S. Douglas, who is the owner of Fresh Raw Natural. If you say fresh raw natural, it's very
Mhm.
difficult.
Oh.
For it's not something what does that mean exactly?
So it I always wanted it to speak for itself when it came to what our company provides, and it actually turned out of a mantra
Okay.
out of my classrooms. I guess I was saying it so much when I had to break down, getting them to understand cell of my cell. When I teach my nutrition classes, that is eating from plants, plant specific, and then I had to break down fresh, raw, and natural, and that is a discussion. Fresh meaning straight from, like, as early from the harvest as possible, right? Fresh. Raw, uncooked, unprocessed, not too much going on where it's been manipulated. And natural from the earth. We speak of organic and more of a trending type of paradigm, but it's really focused on, carbon based or carbon specific foods that we can feed off of because carbons are carriers. And that's a whole nother classroom that we'll have to have. But at the same time, natural is really from the earth. So understanding plant specific means you have to understand how to consume things that are actively and functionally readily available to do what it needs to do within your system, because once you swallow it, it's all business. So if you're taking it in such a way where it hasn't been manipulated, it hasn't been processed, and it's straight from the earth, then you're getting those nutrients at a state where it can actually function. And
Mm.
that's what and with the juicing and shaking, you blend, you extract, and so now the absorption rate goes up to an extreme cost or number.
With fresh, raw, and natural, do you have like concoctions, remedies that you can, or protocols that you can say, okay, when people, fall ill to COVID-19 or even,
Mhm.
or even the new variant, you can recommend And has
Yes.
it proven to work for people?
Yes. So our drink that we have is the immunity booster or immunity elixir, in
Okay.
which most people have an immunity elixir. And what I've noticed, so in my classrooms and everything, I'm an educator, so everything comes from there. The research, a lot of it comes from there. And one of the things I do is I have my students do research on different on nutritionally related illnesses, albeit deficiencies, allergens, obesity, or like diabetes, anything. So with 30 some students in a classroom, and I get like 2 classrooms or so a semester, you get all these different ailments that you come up with. The highlight of it, though, is not to stay focus on the disease itself, but really pull out the preventative cures and the treatments that are mostly focused on holistic and natural ways of curing us from that disease.
Mhm.
And so, what I've seen across the board, no matter what, there are always 3 things that come up that are specific to curing any type of ailment or nutritionally related ailment or allergen or deficient, not allergen, but a deficiency.
Mhm.
And those 3 things are turmeric, garlic, and ginger. Now, with the research from Fresh Raw Natural, one of the things we do is we create shakes, drinks, and all these things that are specific to the health and also taste, because we understand taste, texture, color, aroma, and flavor are important. So we tap into all these things and we heighten it up with the sweetest of the sweets when it comes to the plants, or the, give it a little tart flavor. But we also throw in peppers, because peppers have those things that also attack or appeal to the immune system. Understanding building your immunity is not one of those things you could just say and let it fly by. Oh, our immune system. No, you really have to focus. If you focus in on helping supporting your own immune system, you don't have to worry about the viruses, because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. The purpose of any species is to survive. So, and they don't want to see you go out. They don't want to jump ship again. So their goal isn't to take you out. Their goal is to survive. And they're upset too when your immune system fails on them.
Mm.
And I'm sorry to say it, but they're exposing our immunity. That's exactly what they're doing.
You are not just talking about these things as though, oh, these are remedies you learned from your grandmother or your grandfather, and you just love fruits and vegetables and
Oh
all
no.
of that.
Yeah.
But this is something you studied. And so I would
Oh,
like
I
you to
live
tell us,
by.
yeah, man, I'd like to tell us about your microbial
Microbial.
background. I like
Yeah.
the word microbial.
Microbial.
Microbial, okay, microbial, okay. So,
Yeah.
so you are a biology student, you're a science student, and you. So just in a few minutes, if you can tell us about your science background, your educational background, because I know you have a college degree, a master's degree, and you're working on your PhD. So
Yes.
tell us how the
The
background of that.
journey of that.
Yeah, yeah, and how
So
you got into how.
I am a Chicago born and bred, buttered, battered, beaten, bruised, blistered. I can keep going with this, but I went to Chicago State. I finished up my bachelor's there, just in biology, and then I went into my master's degree, which was in cellular, microbial, and molecular biology. Or from there, I went to Northwestern for a few, but it was biomedical research. So I had a nice little time of my life where I did biomedical research. I have some publications from that looking at molecular in immunology. Actually, at Chicago State, I worked under the tutelage of Dr. Kevin Swear, and it was an immunology lab, and I learned. My thesis was on the interaction between T cells and dendritic cells, antigen presenting cells. And so, I killed a lot of mice in my time. I'm not a killer, but don't push me. So at the same time, it led me into just getting that cellular and molecular understanding of it. And I do owe a lot of it to my professors at Chicago State. They were definitely amazing. But that eventually led me into teaching as well at Chicago State once I was done with my first master's. And education became a bug. And I realized over time, we all are scientists. We
Mm,
all are researchers. We
mm,
all are educators. We all are we all have a message. We just have to figure that out. And so once I figured mine out, and it was the same repetitiveness, because even in high school when I went to CVS, which is now CVCA, they call it, but my vocation was food and hospitality. And so we had a final exhibition, and I just so happened to choose food and nutrition. So I've always been on this path of physical activity, understanding how to eat. I didn't even realize it. And one thing just led to another and another. And this level of cellular and molecular and microbial understanding, it just allows me to move in a way where I'm not scared of microbes. I'm not saying go lick a toilet stool or a doorknob, but we touch screens all day and lick our fingers to open bags, and we take for granted the things we don't want to take or do, and then the things that we don't. So
Mm,
yeah, we have to make sense of how to navigate with the microbes, because they're here. They've been here before us,
mm,
and they're going to be here long after us if we don't do what we need to do
mm.
to work with them. But it's that whole, yeah, that level of scientific understanding that gets me here.
That's very powerful.
Yeah.
Before I go to Dr. MAWUSI, quick question. Um, it's were you one of the few science females in your class when during undergrad, masters, and all of that?
You know what
Uh,
is interesting?
no, I wanted TS to respond to that before
Oh,
I can.
sorry, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh yes. Not at Chicago State. At Chicago State, we had a great time and we got down to business. But
and
once
there
I
were a
got
lot
to
of female
Northwestern,
students. Okay.
yeah, once I got to Northwestern, it definitely became, and that was one of the reasons it wasn't my best fit school for the person that I was and where I was coming from. I needed to, it still enjoy the ride. I respected proteins and all that, but
Mm,
most definitely, it has been nothing but challenges being into this field as an African American woman. And one of the things that I do is I allow myself to pull in the African American women that's coming after me, like the young ones. Once I see that they too have that bug that I had, I
mm.
just do everything I can to support them.
Yeah, exactly, and then that's so. Same question for you, Dr. Wusi. But
Yeah.
and after that, I want to us to talk about COVID-19 and some of the very different the variances, the variants and the differences and all of that. So if you don't mind, Dr. Wusi.
Yeah, so I all the way through, I've been one of a few Black folks, one of a few Black women. So did undergrad at Princeton and actually majored in sociology. So over in New Jersey, um, you know, 10% as our uh, percentage of Black folks' total representation of the African diaspora is considered pretty good at schools like this. So
Mm,
we were right around 10% for undergrad.
mhm,
And then, you know, was one of a minority of Black women who were taking pre-med classes and preparing to go to medical school. I did medical school at the University of Pennsylvania in Philly, so I went right up the road. And that's another one of those places that I don't know how exactly this is, but 10% seems to be the goal. And so you pretty reliably get like 10% Black folks in these classes. Um, you know, across the board in medicine, Black doctors only represent 5% of
mm,
all doctors.
mm,
So there's at least some progress being made in the training pipeline. Uh, Residency was a lot more diverse. Really surprisingly, as a new program, my class, I think we had a residency class of 8 people, and uh, we were 25% Black women. There were actually 2 of us who were Black women in that class, which was
mm,
amazing.
mm,
Um, but yeah, across the board, we are generally underrepresented in the sciences, as TS has said, and in STEM,
yeah,
including math, right?
yeah,
And engineering. But you know, I think it's so important for us to exist in this space
yes,
and
yeah, yeah,
to hold space for each other.
yeah.
Those of us who are um, in STEM fields,
Mm,
and those of us who may not have this specific type of training because we brushed on the disparities that Black folks experience. Black women intersectionally experience
Mhm.
this unique combination of barriers that aren't necessarily experienced by Black men, right?
mm,
So we live in a separate health context,
mm,
and it really takes folks who had the lived experience to be able to speak to how this health education needs to be framed,
mm.
um, in order to promote health and wellness in the long
Yeah,
run.
it's
Yeah,
definitely not easy.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to find out. You know, as an African who has been here and is still learning the system, as we're discussing before the show, what is the main issue? Why do we have this situation, and what you think can be done to increase the numbers? Um, but I must say this, and I'm sure you all know that Nigerians have a lot of medical doctors
Oh
in
yeah.
the country. So if Nigerian who are black people too are able to, make such high numbers, what is it? You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to, like, maybe say other Afrocentric ethnic groups or African Americans.
That's a deep question. I would say that
Okay.
that's right up my
If-
social science alley, though.
okay.
Actually, with Ashley Lingo.
if
So,
if we have enough, if you guys are ready to take it on, please do so.
Oh,
If not,
not you
we can.
guys.
If you're ready, let's do it. If not, let's jump to the next one.
all right, I'll try to make this quick.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the the barriers to entering STEM fields, or we can just simplify it, medicine,
Mhm.
for Black folks, are multifactorial. And you're right to separate Black folks by ethnicity, right? So Black is a race. Race is not chosen. Race is ascribed by other people. So Black is the set of characteristics that our society has decided means Black. And that includes people throughout the African diaspora, with various levels of racial, genetic backgrounds. So, yes, people who have immigrated from Africa or the Caribbean, have a culturally different experience than, people who are like me, and I think like TS, right? African American, meaning lineage is traced back to, say, many generations, for me, Civil War and beforehand. Um, but at some point, right, we originated in Africa. So our ancestors were likely originally West Africans who were brought to the United States as part of, the uh, Atlantic slave trade,
Right.
transatlantic slave trade.
Mhm.
So to have lived in this country for generations
Right.
as a Black person means that you've dealt with a number of structural barriers that were actually codified by law, right? So, I've been telling this story a lot lately, but my father, who's fairly young actually, integrated. He was bused, to integrate a white school, when he was a kid living in Memphis, Tennessee. He's not even 60 years old, right? So this was happening not that long
Yeah.
ago.
Right.
That, um, post Brown versus Board of Education, post this Supreme Court decision,
Mhm.
uh, it was acknowledged that the the legally enforced segregation, um, was not constitutional in that it resulted in disparities in quality of education. So for however long, right, Black kids were getting a lower quality education. They weren't getting the same materials in public schools.
Still,
Yeah.
still
Uh-huh.
to this day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of these changes that were codified by law back then are now de facto. The laws no longer specifically support
Hmm.
segregation in schools or residential segregation,
Okay.
but the network of laws results in, and this network of social forces results in persistent residential segregation, and inequitably distributed resources.
Okay.
Okay, so why am I saying that? He's like, get to the point.
No,
So
it's
I'm just,
good though.
Yeah.
the people who come to this country, it takes so much. It takes capital, it takes will, it takes grit to be an immigrant,
And
right? You have
sacrifice.
to, you got to fly and sacrifice, and you
Yeah.
flew over. Like that takes capital.
Yep.
And so you are potentially the group of Nigerian immigrants that's flying to this, traveling to this country, and then creating, children who are first gen children, first gen Americans. They are not necessarily having to confront the many generations of legally enforced deprivation
Hmm.
that so many African Americans
Have to
in
do.
this country have
Yeah.
had to confront.
Right.
Mhm.
And so it leads not just to a different set of opportunities, but even a different perception of
Yes.
opportunities.
Yeah.
So I had these, I'm gonna wrap up, I promise. There were quite a few African immigrant or first gen African, uh, uh, first gen American whose parents came from Africa, med students in my med student class, and we had conversations about race all the time. And there were certain microaggressions that some of the African Americans would point out, forms of like interpersonal or even structural racism that some of the African students just weren't aware of. Like they would swear that we were making this up.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
few years later, after experiencing the same thing over and over,
Yeah.
they'd say, and now I understand where you're coming
Mm,
Right. Right.
from. Okay,
yeah.
I'm done.
Right.
Yeah. What she
No.
said.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yes.
No,
Yes.
what
Just
she
want to
said.
comment on that real quick. So I
Not at all.
no.
I think Dr. Wusi did a great job at expressing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. She nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This. You're right. This is a whole conversation on its own. So we would come to it sometime, and we'll create a platform for it. But we want to talk. What Rich just want to remind our listeners that this is the Progressive Mind Show collaboration with Bite Wellness. We wanted to do this season's safety show on COVID-19 and Omicron because, as we are aware, everybody's falling sick left, right, center. Um, I'm sure that as you're watching now, you know somebody who's sick in your family or in your community. Folks that are watching us. So this one has become very, 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 very important and timely. Um, this holidays, Dr. Mausi, how do we keep safe? Before you respond directly to that, COVID-19, Delta variants, Omicron, how different are these, or are they just the same thing?
Yeah, I am guys, I talk so much. I'm gonna try to keep this very direct.
Okay.
Um, Feel free to interrupt me if this is going on a little while. But so, in order to understand the difference between the most recent variants, Omicron and Delta, uh, I want to zoom out just a little bit
Okay.
because this is really a great conversation to help us understand how viruses infect us and um, how our immune system fights viruses and what it means to build immunity. So you've probably heard Dr. Fauci, you've heard other public health officials say Omicron is not a new virus, right? These variants, they're not a new virus. If COVID-19 is a pigeon, Omicron is not a cow. It's a pigeon with red spots. That's it, right? So when we talk about the scale of change, that the virus has displayed, it's actually a really small scale, but the impact can be significant. So just to check in real quick, you guys with me, this whole pigeon versus pigeon with red spots, that makes sense?
Well,
Yes.
no, for me, I'm not used to that expression. So,
Okay.
I'm sure there are some people too watching who may want to get a little bit more breakdown. So please.
Yeah. So good. I'm
I,
glad I
I was
checked
I was
in.
I was listening because I was gonna ask you what is pigeon with a red star.
I got it. I was with you.
Yeah,
So I mean,
you were a science student, so yeah,
I know. Like,
I'm not.
I'm in it to win it.
I mean, look, the idea is almost that the virus has one way to think about it is that the virus has sort of changed its uniform.
Okay.
That's kind of one way to think about it. And its change of uniform kind of changes the way that it interacts with our body and changes our immune system's ability to see it. So I'm gonna give you that was one metaphor with the pigeon that didn't land so well. No
No,
pun intended.
no, it landed well. We just wanted to make sure how it landed. So, but it landed well.
I got
How
a
it
second
landed.
metaphor for you. I hope this works. All right, you can think of a virus. You can think of the COVID-19 virus as an army, right? So it's going to be a military metaphor here. The cells, the virus particles are soldiers in the army.
Yeah.
And the soldiers have a certain uniform, right? They look a certain way. Let's say they have this dull gray uniform, but then
Yeah.
they've got like this patch on their left shoulder
Exactly.
that's kind of unique.
Yeah.
And the way that they enter your cells, right? So they're just rolling down the highway, they're in whatever their big Humvees, etc. And they come to your town, your body, your cells, and you have a big gate, like a fortress around your town to keep virus soldiers, virus invaders like COVID-19 out. But you do have this keyhole. You have a gate that's locked that can be opened with a key. And COVID-19 soldiers, they have the key, right? So the way that immunity works is if your body has been shown a copy of the COVID-19 key or the uniform, that really unique patch on the shoulder, then your body can prepare its strategy. It knows how to identify these soldiers when they come to the gate, like when they are on the highway, right? Before they even take out the key and try to enter.
Okay.
And then when they take out the key and try to put it in the gate to open it up, you send out these like drone missiles. That's what our antibodies are essentially. They can glom on to the teeth of the key and keep the virus from being able to use it. So it never gets in the gate, right?
Right.
And then if eventually a virus gets in the gate, whatever, your army from inside your town is already prepared to attack. So immunity really relies on advance notice. It's the cheat code. You have to have seen a copy of the virus, either because you've had an infection with the virus or because you've been vaccinated. And we do know that vaccination tends to lead to stronger and longer lasting immunity than simply infection with the virus. So Omicron versus Delta is like the soldiers with the dull gray
Re-equip
uniform.
themselves.
Yes, they got the patch for Delta, and then maybe with Omicron, the patch is red.
Okay.
And they built a new key. It looks a little bit different. It can still open the gate. It's going to evade your immune system. I hear TS, yes, you got it. Because like TS said, a virus is a living organism. Like us, viruses are designed to live. So they mutate, which is their evolutionary process. And if we get really good with any organism, right? We get really good at finding the virus, identifying it, our immune systems get too good at that, then it will, when it has an opportunity, begin to mutate And so this key that we talked about that opens the gate, it's that spike protein that we keep hearing about.
Mm.
And the spike protein for Omicron presumably has mutations that make it harder for the immune system to snuff it out, to recognize it, and then to disable that key.
Okay. Wow.
So it's more transmissible.
Mm.
That's the end result. It's
Okay.
easier to pass from person to person.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me. Thanks for explaining that. We heard that it started from South Africa. It's here now. It's all over the world. Um, what are you hearing from China and Europe? I know it's there too, and I hear China is trying to shut down. TS or Dr. Mausi, any info regarding this? When because this is you can't talk about COVID-19 in one circle because it's global. So any info on these? Any updates on these countries?
I've been talking a lot, so if TS wants to go first.
I don't
What, what,
typically keep my ear to the streets in such a way. So
no, no,
if you have that data to support.
no, it's fine. During this segment, you are in that field, so
Right.
so it's fair that you take
Okay.
on some of these questions.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
TS,
I'm fine.
TS,
Look, I'll
yeah,
jump in when I
yeah,
see fit, trust
exactly.
and believe.
She's down.
So, like UTS, I mean, I can't speak to whether China or certain European countries should lock down, but I will say here's sort of a framework to help us think about what a lockdown means and why lockdowns are even considered.
Right.
So a lockdown is it's a tool, right? It's a blunt instrument to try to control the spread of COVID-19 or any virus really throughout a population. And it's just one of many tools. So other ones that we've seen recently, right? There's the lockdown, but then we've seen flight cancellations. Um, we've seen, mandates for social distancing and recommendations for masking, and vaccinations are one of those population level tools that are meant to slow the spread of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So
Hand washing.
does that help?
Uh,
And
yeah.
hand
No.
washing.
Just
And
Yes.
washing,
no.
keeping.
Go ahead. TS.
Well, just to add on, one of the things that we talk about in the kitchen, how to keep vermin out. Don't invite them.
Mhm.
So let's not invite them by keeping things clean. Washing is important, not just your hands, keeping your homes clean, cleaning off your steering wheels, being cognizant of the touchscreen situation. We're so busy, we're so excited about technology, but is technology really failing us with regarding our health in the long run? These are
Yeah.
all questions that are pending in due time.
Yeah, thank you, TS and Dr. Mausi, for a great response. The reason why I brought the China thing up is we know that last year it was one of the mechanisms they used in controlling COVID-19 to the point where they had, even though it started there, China got control over it, and at a point actually opened their economy way before America got to open theirs. So if rumors has it that they already tried to shut down because of this new variant, which is making people sick, is it that they are trying to be smart and check it right in the beginning when it hasn't, gotten, out of hand, versus here where we're not thinking about it, about shutting down? And would you ever, this goes to the two of you, would you ever recommend early shutdown just so we can check it and then maybe open back
Mm.
up after 3 months of shutting down or something? Would you recommend that?
I mean, I can speak on the epidemiology of it all,
There you go.
understanding that the sooner we catch anything, the better.
Mhm.
It always starts within a community, and the whole purpose of epidemiology is to catch it
Yeah.
there to prevent a pandemic,
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, whatever you can do early on,
Mhm.
do it. If it even allowed saying, you telling yourself to stay home and keeping people away and not caring if people feel a certain way about it or not, because there are people who are a bit more adamant about staying indoors, not allowing people to come over, and then there are still people who are planning New Year's out as if nothing is wrong. So you have to find your happy medium when it comes to those things. But the earlier and sooner you protect yourself, albeit staying in before, the government steps in, the better.
The better. Okay, you're still watching the Progressive Mind show. This is the #1 community building platform where we engage folks in the community on topical issues such as this. Our hope is that as we engage, we can effect positive attitudes in people in our communities and make our society a better place. It's 2 minutes to 7 p.m. We encourage you to keep sharing and promoting this message that we're talking about regarding keeping safe during these holidays. There are a lot of parties, a lot of moving around. People want to see, people want to hang out with family and loved ones, but we have to be very mindful that these times are not safe, and so we have to exercise extreme caution. We will take a short break. When we come back, please feel free. I would go to the comments. We have a few of them I'd like to read out. You can also ring in and ask question or be part of this conversation. It's 815-277-5047. 815-277-5047. We will take the short break. When we come back, the show will continue. Please stay with us.
There is a cry.
Aglo, Aglo, Aglo. Aglo Bolingbrook Lighthouse is a network of caring women. We are a dynamic global movement with a single mission to see God's purpose fulfilled on earth as it is in heaven. Our mandate is every nation touched and every heart changed for God. We invite you to our prayer meeting every Saturday and breakfast meeting held every last Saturday of the month from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. via Zoom meeting. For more information, please contact Dickness Rebecca Modi at 630-297-1471 or Reverend George Ofe Ado, our advisor, at 630-414-9505. We look forward to having a refreshing time with you in the Lord. Thank you and stay blessed.
Very talented young people who have decided to follow.
Then another year it starts again. Well, this is different.
We should definitely be talking to those wonderful people. Once again, we urge you to share the feed on Facebook.
Hi there, I'm Faida, and today we're going to be talking about the African diaspora in Mexico.
Whether UK likes it or not, I have to leave this country.
I became a member and a chief of the Vice Lord all in one day.
All these guys, winds are out of the north at Midway Airport.
His father.
Rice and beans. Okay, kids, we have had to come to an end of this beautiful set.
It's not about this.
This is the inside account of a week that brought the Rainbow Nation to its knees.
Right, essentially trying to inculcate into this. Welcome welcome back to the show. We want to continue our conversation this evening. It's the holidays and our health and the holidays, season safety, very, very, very important. Let's keep in mind that we we are in very trying times. COVID-19 is very, very, very much here, and so let's pay attention to our health and how we interact, how we boost our immune systems. And we will be talking back. We're going back to Dr. MAWUSI, who is an eternal medicine practitioner at Northwestern Hospital. She's also the owner of BYTEWELLNESS, and T.S. Douglas, who's the owner of Fresh Raw and Natural. We'll be talking about boosting our immune system from here. Again, feel free to share your comments and be part of the show. You can
Hello.
also Yes, you can also call the number down the right bottom of the screen, 815-277-5047. I'll take a few comments. I'll take the comments that we have, and then we shall go back to our guest this evening. Dr. Mausi, I said you are internal medicine practitioner. Is that correct?
It's actually family medicine. I gotta shout out my family
Yeah.
fam.
Okay.
We are an underappreciated group, but we do great work.
Family. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take this comments and then we'll come back to you guys. Okay. Do you guys think COVID-19 is here to stay like the flu? I truly hope not. Okay, so there's a question. We can have you respond to it directly. That way we don't forget.
I think likely, based on what we've seen so far, the fact that it continues to mutate, as TS has mentioned, organisms like to find ways to survive. We haven't found a way yet to stamp it out. So yeah, maybe something that we need to keep addressing every year.
Yeah, we definitely need to kind of stop feeling like we are going to get back to a norm and start realizing that, or start trying to develop into a new norm. And that may be thinking about what it is like having such a virus and it's stick around for quite some time and change its shape and its stripes, as Dr. MAWUSI has been talking about. Like these things, viruses, they're not going anywhere. And as I say, the only thing you can do is protect your immunity and protect you against them.
That's very powerful. It's not going anywhere, so we have to fortify our system. Okay, it's not going anywhere. Okay.
That's not what we wanted to hear.
Did you see that?
Alinko was very disappointed.
Alinko, you were like, okay, let me get my immunity elixir now. Yes, every day. Take your best shot every day.
So herd immunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing.
That's another thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Go ahead.
I mean, I was just going to say we were so excited about the concept of herd immunity. And I think the numbers thrown around were maybe 68% of the population needed to be immunized against COVID-19 in order to develop herd immunity. And we're at like 61%. I checked just before this conversation, and I was really surprised that we're so high, actually, because I know that in some communities the number is much lower. So the question of what herd immunity means at the population level, like at national level, versus the question of whether we can develop herd immunity in certain neighborhoods at the community level. And the reality is that unless we have pretty evenly distributed coverage, we're not really giving ourselves much of a shot. If there is a reservoir of COVID-19 non-immunity in a community where there are low vaccination rates, where there are maybe higher risk exposures, that's an opportunity for COVID-19 to just live and reproduce and then eventually mutate and then be released, right? Find a way to get to other folks all across the country and then across the world too, because this is a global pandemic.
There you go.
And then we're seeing, we see some waning immunity with the vaccinations, which is why boosters are recommended after 6 months if you've had the two-dose mRNA vaccine rather, or after 2 months after your J&J single dose vaccination. So we're recommending boosters because of the waning immunity, but then we're also seeing differential immunity to some of these new variants like Omicron, because as we just discussed, Omicron and these other new variants, they keep changing the way that T looks.
Generationally speaking, yes.
Find a way to open that gate. So
if anybody has been exposed to COVID-19 or Delta, Omicron, any form of the variant, of the virus, should you also take the vaccine? Wouldn't it be the same, because vaccine is supposed to do the same thing that you've already?
Yeah. So what's interesting is for a number of other viruses, even like the chickenpox, for example, we typically see better immunity after you had a real infection compared to having received the vaccine.
Okay.
But in the case of COVID-19, it's the opposite. We're seeing higher levels of immunity, meaning higher levels of antibodies that last longer after you've gotten the vaccine compared to people who have only been infected. So the recommendation, even if you've been infected with the COVID-19 virus, is still afterwards to get the vaccine. And you should talk to your doctor, your healthcare practitioner, about specifically when your symptoms ended, and based on your set of chronic diseases, when is the next earliest time that you should get the vaccine. You're not getting it 2 days after you've been diagnosed. You're not getting the vaccine while you're still suffering from COVID-19 symptoms.
30 days.
It's recommended.
Okay, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, which will be the appropriate recommendation?
That's the decision. That's a conversation to have with your practitioner.
As a family doctor, if somebody came to you personally, what would you recommend? Now, this is not to everybody. So let's say TS is your patient. Okay. So
you don't want me as a patient. They hate to see me coming. Yes, can you not do it today, please?
The scientists and the doctors are the worst. Okay, well, I think the way to think about it would be if you've got a person who had a really mild symptomatic infection or even was asymptomatic, but just happened to be tested and they tested positive, and they're otherwise healthy, don't have a number of comorbidities, I would probably recommend 30 days, and I think this is what the CDC recommends, that potentially 30 days after your last COVID symptoms, you get vaccinated against COVID-19. And some early data is beginning to come out with the Omicron variant showing that people who've had, and it's really early, and this is from a study with very few, it's like a low sample size, very few members, so really hard to draw conclusions here. But there is the suggestion that people who've had Omicron and then gotten vaccinated may have or who have been vaccinated rather, and had a breakthrough infection with Omicron, end up having really high levels of immunity against Delta. So it's possible, right, that if you have had a COVID-19 infection and survived it, if you then go get vaccinated at an appropriate time after a discussion with your healthcare provider, you may have supercharged immunity, like higher than you would have had if you were only vaccinated, and higher than you would have had if you were only infected.
Okay, that's a very powerful point. Very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
I'm not recommending that people go out and purposely infect themselves, because that could go really badly.
Again, I say too.
Okay, you're right. So let's continue with the feedback from social media. So we have Femi F. Bello watching. Thank you so much, Femi, for being part of the conversation. William Bejeke, my own buddy from Ghana. William, I see what you're doing. I know you're in Thailand right now. I see all the efforts with the diaspora. Big up to you, William. I know we have to work, so I'll be in touch. Mayet Valencia Rodriguez is also watching us. Thank you so much for being part of the convo this evening. Shirley Tete, you're also here. Mausi Empress. So, okay.
Another one. You're fine.
Another
They're popping all up. They're
Empress Mausi. Hey,
Yes.
Empress. This is another Mausi Empress. This is very strange. Empress Mausi. I forgot to mention this. We went to school together. We went to high school together. Remember when I was telling you about the story about the high school that I went to and all of that?
And the name means relative.
There you go. So I was there with Mausi, and we were more than like brothers and sisters. We grew up together, literally, and years down the line, we both found ourselves in Chicago.
Wow.
And she's actually a nurse too. She's in the medical profession. Wonderful lady. So yeah, now we have two Mausis, who I know, so that's beautiful. So Mausi, thank you for joining. She has Empress to her, so that's the only difference. So Empress. So maybe we'll find something else for you. So for now, we'll stay with Dr. Mausi. This one is from K. Mary. How can one not have antibodies if they have been infected or vaccinated?
Is that how the question?
How can one not have antibodies if they have been infected?
It's kind of, yeah.
Well,
so you should develop antibodies initially, but eventually your antibody levels can wane. So after vaccination, that 6-month level, that 6-month period of time, after your 2-dose mRNA vaccines is when we started to see antibody levels wane. And again, if you've been only infected with COVID-19 and haven't been vaccinated, then you might start to see those antibody levels drop even well before the 6-month time.
And also think about antibodies. They're nothing but proteins structurally. So because they're proteins that are secreted by B cells, they don't live or last that long. Molecularly speaking, proteins easily degrade. So thankfully, in the environment that they live in within our lymphatic systems and where they need to go to neutralize any threat, they're protected. But over time, because they're not used, think about if they're not being utilized. If you don't use it, you'll lose it. And so with that, they'll degrade, or the parts will be used by the cells for other things.
Okay. Thank you so much, TS. Next comments. A big shout out to you guys from Rebecca. Thank you for joining us,
Rebecca. I see a few of my people on here too. Thank you. My cousins up here, my sister. I think a few. Look, shout outs. We do. Hey y'all.
I can pronounce she, her, Z Robinson. We are all scientists. Great conversation from Priscilla Thomas. Thank you so much, Priscilla. And we have, hey, this is Steve from ICU. Congrats. Is that one of your people?
Dr. Wolf, is that your
TS?
No. Oh, hey TS, this is Steve. Oh yeah, that's one of my grad cohorts. Hey Steve from ISU.
Okay.
Redbirds.
So this is from Rebecca. This is from Love That Feed Your Cells from Carol Douglas. Thank you so much.
That's my sister actually. Hey sis, happy birthday.
Okay.
Her birthday just passed.
Happy birthday to her.
Thank you. I know, right?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yay! And it was on Christmas, not to tell her business, but you get Christmas gift. Yeah, she's had to grow up with, sharing a birthday.
Very special.
Yeah.
Very special. Happy birthday to you, sis. We wish you all the best. Okay, so we the next few minutes we'll try and wrap up this conversation Again, if you want to ring in, is 815. Today we're not going all the way to 8 p.m. So please note that and not try to save your calls for last minute. We're going to be closing in next about 7:30. We should be ending the show. So feel free to ring in 815 277 5047. How do we boost our immune system? And I know you guys have mentioned it. TS, this is your specialty. Bite Wellness. I'm curious as to how you go about helping people with COVID-19 or just helping health in general outside your, you know, the your clinician, whatever profession. How you use Bite Wellness to help people. But TS, tell us first, how do we boost our immune system? I know because there's a lot of conversation out there, but what are your methods?
Again, I have to call it from the top of the buildings, plant specific, okay? Not plant based, okay? Because plant based means it could mean 2 or 3 times removed from the plant or derived from the plant. And the thing about any type of plant based food or supplement is at some point they had to start with the plant. So why not just pull from there? Again, cell of my cell. So if you start pulling from straight plants, right, and then creating this diversity of those different groups, we call it taste the rainbow. So if you're thinking about, okay, what should I pull from then? The greens, the whites, the reds, the blues, and of course we can break down plants to fruits. Well, really the shoots and the roots. And it's so unfair because we've been calling them fruits and vegetables for so long. And there's so much more than just fruits and vegetables when you actually break down the overall structure. So trying to tap into the diversity of the plant is important. But the question is, what do I do with all those different plants? Because usually when we get that stuff home, we don't wash it. We probably just throw it in a refrigerator or cupboard or somewhere, and then it goes bad because we don't do anything with it. And then we're like, okay, I'll pour from this box of noodles or pasta or these peels, and you're not really getting the nutrients in which you need. So try to make sense of them by at least blending them, juicing them. And if you can't do it yourself, tap into some of these. Fresh Raw Natural, I will pub that one all the way from start to finish, because one of the diversity of nutrients because we pull from well over 50 different plants. So that's one thing. But 2, we add content, and then 3, it's all about the nutrient or the solubility of it as well. So understanding that if it's already soluble and broken down, that absorption rate goes up to get to your cells a lot faster and give them what they need. But if you're not pulling from plant specific foods, then you're not giving your cells what they need. And so again, the top 3 would be garlic, turmeric, and ginger, but there are so many more. And if you can't do it yourself, try to tap into some of these shake and juice companies and try not to add any other supplemental things into it, because that adds artificial and synthetic things that your cells have to make sense of. So again, there are many shake and juice companies out here. Fresh Raw Natural is definitely one that I will promote. This is one that I've been living by. I always say not only am I the president, I'm also a client, but there are many different plant-specific, nutrient diverse, and absorption-ready shake and juice bars, even in your neighborhoods and in your communities. And if there are not, contact me so I can get mine over there, because we all need it.
Yeah, please go ahead. I thought you were gonna give your social media or contact.
Oh yeah, so freshrawnnatural.com, of course. That's our website. We're relaunching because one of the goals as I complete this doctoral program in educational administration and foundations, the goal is to open up my own university surrounding this. So it's going to start with the website. So we're not here just to feed sales. We're also here to teach you how to feed cells. And that's the mission, really, the educational aspect behind it. So if you tap into our website, become a member and all that, you can definitely find a lot of information. I also write articles for Southside Drive, which is a part of the South Shore community in Chicago. So if you find find yourself on the South Side of Chicago and in South Shore, you can pretty much pick up one of those magazines that I've been writing for. The new article I have coming out is New Year, New You. in 2022 or not. That's my favorite part, or
Right.
not. And I'm on social media as well, Instagram, but fresh, 3 simple words: fresh, raw, natural. You'll find me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
thank you.
much.
We really appreciate it. So we have, okay. So I just got feedback that folks have been trying to call. I think that our system had been down, but let's see if we can pick this one up. Okay, we just missed this one. Hello. Okay, I think we just missed this one. We 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 um we sorry. If you're trying to call, please do. We had to do a little bit of uh what do you call it, not rebooting, but there you go.
There
um
it is.
yes. So we have a call on the line. Please tell us why you're calling.
Hi, my name is MAWUSI.
Okay.
So I know Dr. MAWUSI is on the show tonight.
Yes, yes,
Hi,
yes.
Dr. MAWUSI. How are you?
Hi, Mousy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I heard you were coming on the show today. I was like, I gotta call this lady and let her know what her name means if she doesn't know. Do you know what MAWUSI means?
The meaning I've heard is in the
Okay.
hands of God.
Yes, or it also means that God has heard your prayer.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes.
I needed
I
that.
just wanted to share. So I just wanted to share that with you, and also to let you guys know that you're doing an awesome job. God bless you all. We are also very grateful to have you on the show today. We've learned a lot from you guys today. I just want to also say that keep on doing the good job, and I know that every good thing you do, there's going to be a reward for you in the future. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, so that's my sister.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah, so Marcy, I told her about you, and I'm like, yeah, this, that's they have 3 sisters. I don't want to say it on here. I was going to say she's my favorite sister, but no,
you said it. Too late.
no, they're all my sisters. But I told her that there's this Mousy that I want that's going to be on
Yeah.
the show. So, Mousy, thank you so much for ringing in. We call it Bray Bray. Bray, thanks for ringing to the show. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Okay.
It's my pleasure.
It's good to hear from you. Take care.
Yes, I'm here.
And yeah, bye. Shout out to Abigail and Jocelyn Akofa, my other 2 sisters. You know I love you guys, so I don't want no fight. I beg.
Right. No smoke, no shade at
No,
all.
those
Keep the
are my
peace.
those are my 3 lovely sisters.
You're all our favorites.
Y'all are favorite.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so we about to wrap up. Dr. Mousy, Belt and Bite Wellness. Exactly what do you do and how do you help people?
Yeah, so we're a digital wellness platform. We reframe the science of holistic wellness to help Black women prevent chronic diseases like high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes that eventually result in stroke and heart attack. So we know that there are a number of everyday habits that can be practiced to lower your risk of developing these diseases. And these are the things like nutrition, like TS just mentioned, so many of the great insights she's noted around how to feed your cells. There are a number of other ways, including being physically active on a regular basis, getting enough sleep, using substances strategically, right? So reevaluating the quantity and the regularity in which we drink alcohol. There are a bunch of other ways. We use these 7 dimensions of wellness that are adapted from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And we deliver education really in the form of content, courses, and community. So we've got members who are Black women. We've got members who wouldn't be identified as Black. We've got members who don't identify as women. It's essentially a place people can go when they've experienced marginalization and need to understand how their social structures influence their health, and then figure out how to strategically overcome them because they're determined to not just survive but thrive. So you can find us at Byte Wellness, BYTE wellness.com, or at Byte Wellness on all of the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And just a plug for tonight, part of our free content is this free course that we released over a year ago at the start of the pandemic. So if you want to get 14 days of education, bite-sized information, one text message a day, teaching you how your everyday habits can support your immune system, so that your army has the material it needs to do its job of fighting COVID-19. And this is one of the tools that is really important alongside all of those others, including vaccination and hand washing and masking, etc. If you'd like to get that course, just send a text, send COVID to this phone number, 1-224-302-6224. Just text COVID to that number, and for free, you'll get 14 daily text messages, 14 days, 14 ways to support your immune system.
Okay.
Can you put that number up somehow?
Yes, we would put it up. We would. Okay, let me do that. Let me hear.
I'm sorry.
Repeat it. No, thank you.
What's the number again?
So it's 224.
Okay.
And it's a US number, so it starts 1-224-302-6224. And unfortunately, we don't text to numbers outside of the US yet. But if you are listening from outside of the US, hit us up at bytewellness.com or on the Facebook page at Byte Wellness, and we'll find some way to try to get these lessons to you.
Okay.
Maybe I'm thinking of somehow how I can provide some service with that, even like creating a shake or two, something that people can, I don't know, we'll talk, I guess.
That would be amazing. I already have a bunch of ideas. We gotta
cool.
get together. This will not be the last time.
Yes, good. And
my
the
members
children
need what you're offering.
Yeah, definitely. I was watching some news stuff last night, and it was really talking about how 50% of the cases of children, or the children's cases, are going up, and it's at a higher rate. So especially children under 5. So also ensuring that children are getting the nutrients. They can't survive off Cheetos and juice boxes. Like, seriously, guys, we're moving so far away from plant-specific foods that it just baffles me. So, yeah.
TS, what's your number? I want to put it up as well.
Yes. Let me give you my business number. It's 312.
Okay.
Hold on, I should know it by heart, but I barely know my own number by heart, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Hold on.
Everything's in phones now.
Yes, I was like, this is sad when you don't even know.
Yeah, whilst you're looking for that.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. There's a question on here that I want us to take real quick. Maybe Dr. MAWUSI or you check in late, but can you all speak on protecting our young people between 5 to 10 years old? Are recommendations the same?
So I'll say quickly, yeah. So recommendations are similar for these young folks, specifically 5 to 11 years old, because the Pfizer vaccine was just approved for them. So as young as 5 years old now, kids can get their pediatric COVID-19 vaccination. I think what's tricky with kids now is that so many of them are going back to school, right? And so whereas a lot of us working adults many of us are still in kind of remote scenarios, kids are like breathing on each other and touching each other, and you hope they wear their masks at school, but that's touch and go probably. So I would just reinforce the masking with your kids in addition to the decisions your family makes around vaccination, which is what we've recognized is safer than actual COVID-19 infection at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
I
But
have the numbers.
yes. Okay. Go ahead.
It's 312
Okay.
373
Okay.
0302.
02.
Yes.
Okay. 312-373-0302.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we have the number up. Thank you. 360 just was appreciating your response. Okay. So we had our phone system was had COVID, but it's fine now. The phone system recovered from COVID, so now you can ring. For those who were trying to ring earlier that had issues, excuse me. That was just by the way. If you want to ring, the show has come to an end. But if you have a last question or a comment, 815-277-5047. Staying safe in this holiday season is very, very important. Our health and the holidays. There's so much partying, fun. We want to connect, but it's very, very important that our health is should be paramount to fun and party and anything else. So that said, we have done our best to try to go through some of the things that we are struggling with in this era, the pandemic. We're in the pandemic era. However, Dr. MAWUSI and TS, I would like you to give us your closing remarks as we try to be aware of our health and these holidays and ways that we can be safe. I know we've touched on it a lot, but please, your closing remarks. And I'd like to start with, who did we begin with? MAWUSI or TS?
I'm not sure.
We're not sure. Okay. Who wants to go? Please, feel free.
You go if you like.
You can go
I'll
first.
go. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Now, see, I'm like, can I come up with some trifecta like TS would?
So it's always like this. Anytime we're about to close, people
get
call
calls
in. So we'll take this last one. Please go ahead, caller, and ask your question. Mhm.
Hello, hi. This is Clary. That's my cousin TS. Hey.
Hi. Oh, hey, Clary.
I have a question. So, we are trying to stay healthy during the holiday season. I love my mom's holiday cooking. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do I make sure I'm getting all of my nutrients in between the mac and cheeses, the greens, the candied yams? What are some things that I can do over the holiday season as I'm enjoying this really delicious food to make sure that I'm feeding myself?
Well, one of the things we talk about, considering you brought up some of those, the greens, oh, definitely nutrients. The thing about how we treat our plants is a big deal. So you don't want to oversaturate them with oils or just overcook them to a point where the nutrients may what's the word break down. Yeah, deteriorate. Thank you. I was thinking of two different words. Or, or become evaporated into the air. So you want to make sure you're not overcooking them. But the funny part is, when it comes to our holiday foods, we have things like greens, like you said, yams or potatoes, soups, salads. Instead of just focusing on the carbs and the proteins and the meats, also throw in those salads in there, throw in those soups and those greens, but just don't overcook them, oversaturate them, and try to add things like fresh herbs and just staying with those plants and creating those flavors. But a good salad will go a long way by far, and it will fill you up, and then you're not really trying to overconsume the starch-based foods such as the cornbread dressings, and trust me, I know. And you just want to nibble on those things. You don't have to. Your stomach is only so big by size, and if you look at that relative to the proportion of your plate, you're at an unfair advantage. So try to minimize that amount of even those cornbread dressings and all of those heavy turkeys to a small portion. But start off with the salads, start off with make a soup, a big green soup or whatever the case may be, and get you some water in there and just nibble on the other stuff, and you'll be happy.
All right, Claire, I hope that satisfied your
No, Clary. Yeah.
Oh, Clary.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I hope.
Yes, thank you. And I wanted to say that I've sat and listened during this entire talk, and it's been really enlightening. And thank you so much for organizing this and putting this together. I learned a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Alinka.
Thank you for being part of the community building show. Actually, this is all TS. TS the one that gave me a call one time. And TS, I really want to appreciate you. She connected Dr. MAWUSI, and she's always responsive. It doesn't matter what time I reach out. Sometimes she'll reach out to me and says, Linko,
don't let my students hear that. They'll be like, oh, so I have to be
no
over the Progressive Mind show to get it.
No, I'm just saying that she has been very helpful in making this show a success.
Well, thank you.
In terms of providing the resources and just working with us to make this, because it takes a lot behind the scenes work to make these productions happen week in, week out. And I really want to appreciate TS
this
for
is
helping.
An important concept. When I reached out to you and you said this is great, because I want to really bring out what Omicron is doing right now. And, this is a concern for who we are as a culture, and what are we going to do about it? And it does start with this type of dialogue between us. So I thank you especially.
My pleasure. And maybe we'll come back and do just a whole segment on just immune system. Just immune system.
Let's do it. Look, we're about it. Let's do it.
Can never get too much immune system talk.
Exactly.
Okay. And then we'll do one and then in that we'll have Dr. MAWUSI flow in a social justice type of element, because you can see that too.
A side job.
I was going to ask you, like, typically, people in your profession or engineering, they're not necessarily involved in social activities or social justice issues, but you have the passion. I can see the passion and feel it quickly because of time. How did you get in there? Like, what pushes you into that arena?
Health disparities is what made me want to become a doctor, to address racial health disparities. So I majored in sociology and then focused on social science in my master's in public health, and have done research along the lines of how structural racism affects health behaviors. So everybody out there who's interested in it, social justice covers every single arena.
And you have a podcast. Can you just put it out there how people can listen and follow your podcast?
Yeah, so for people who are part of our daily wellness text chat right now, 12-month boot camp essentially on how to build wellness resilience with your habits. Every month, we actually have, last Wednesday of the month, we have a 1-hour workshop where we break down the text messages that people have gotten for every day of that prior month. And each month follows a certain theme. And so we make sure that you understand what exactly we've been talking about, from healthy eating to getting quality sleep and troubleshooting some of the sleep problems a lot of us have had during the pandemic. So again, if you are interested in joining, you can send a text message that's not COVID. You can send text to that same phone number, 1-224-302-6224. We try to deal mainly in text messages so that the knowledge is as accessible as possible.
Okay, great. Thank you again. Really honored and appreciate you all for your time. But your closing remarks, and I know that, I don't know if you gave yours before the call came through. No, you were about to, and then the call.
I was saved by the bell. I had to stall a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to get my thoughts together. But yeah, I
staying safe in these holidays. Yeah.
Exactly. Just loop together things that we've talked about. I will have 3 points for you. First one is building immunity by getting a vaccine, right? So giving your body the blueprint of the COVID-19 virus so it can recognize it if it's exposed to it. The second part is building your immune system, giving that cellular army what it needs to be able to respond to COVID-19 robustly if it's exposed to it. And then the third part is uh, and building your immune system, by the way, is the nutrition and other forms of self-care we talked about. But then the third part is limiting your exposure, which is really relevant this holiday season. So practicing the masking, the social distancing, the hand washing, and as necessary, keeping your distance from vulnerable loved ones who, if infected, could be at high risk for severe disease.
Okay.
So those three: immunity, immune system, and then limiting exposure.
Thank you so much. TS.
Yes. So Dr. Wusial has already expressed protecting yourself, and meaning just governing your immune system to a way to a degree that you can fight off any virus or any microbe in which becomes a threat to you. But as she mentioned, nutrition, so I always have to wrap this around with feeding your cells. And how do you feed your cells? Focusing on plant specific nutrient absorption, or nutrient complete and absorption ready foods. I prefer shakes and juices because that's what the whole absorption ready is about. You're able to absorb a higher rate of nutrients than just chewing food and swallowing it, because most of us don't really chew our food down to a size where it can be absorbed at a higher rate. And then with that, get educated, more so on not just the virus itself, because more people are focusing on, if you spend time focusing on one thing, you forget about the other. So if you more so get focused or focus your mind on how to keep your immune system at a state of homeostatic balance or physiological balance to where you stay healthy, then you kind of don't worry in a way about the viruses and those threats that are out there on a microbial level. And so that does allow you to get to my last point: live, love, and laugh. And we talked about this earlier before the show started. And I'm like, Alenko, you definitely have to include that message, just the happiness and still enjoying those moments of time with family and friends, and being able to be here and do the things you're here to do. Find that purpose, find your mission, find your message, and move forward with that, because time is not promised. The thing we are against is time. And while you're here, figure out some way to leave a mark that's progressive for who we are. So that's my final thoughts. And thank you so much. This has been great, you guys.
My pleasure. I'm very honored for having you guys on here to share this valuable information. I know you all have very important things to do, but taking time to come on, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. I really appreciate it. The community appreciates it. And I really want to thank everyone that had been watching since we started, and those who have those who sent in their comments, folks who have called in to share their opinion and to support. Those who missed the call, your heart has been with us. We really appreciate that. This conversation would continue. We'll find time and let you know when the next one is coming up. Really also want to inform our audience that come November, next year, February, the exchange ceremony is coming live at Rainbow Push. We're going to be bringing the African diaspora together, whether you're an African, Caribbean, African American, or Latinx. We're coming together to celebrate our beauty and our humanity. And it's going to be a very beautiful ceremony. With the first time it was done was in 2019. We missed it last year, but definitely coming 2022 February, we're going to do it again. It's going to be beautiful cultural performances, and we're going to be honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson. So stay tuned to the Progressive Mind Show. Keep your eyes on our social media pages. We're going to be sharing more information in this regard. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. This has been your host. I know we just had a last comment come through. Johnny Woods. You always get your last word before we go. He's one of my top fans and great gentleman. So again, remember, to whom much is given, much is required. Dr. MAWUSI of Northwestern Hospital, family doctor, owner of Bite Wellness. This has been a collaboration of Progressive Minds and Bite Wellness. And T.S. Douglas, owner of Fresh, Raw, and Natural. We shall be seeing you very soon. In the meantime, please be safe. Go home
Thank you,
and get some.
guys.
Go home and get some food.
Thank you.
Blessings. Thank you all. Take
Get
care.
get some fresh juices.
I know, right? Fresh, raw, and natural.
Good grief.
Thank you all for the much
Have a
needed
good one.
info. This is from Eve. So Eve, thank you too.
Oh, that's my cousin again. They're
Oh.
out here. Look at y'all. Show up to show out. I'm sorry. Bye.
All right,
They
ladies.
showed up for you.
They
really
did.
did.
I love them.
Remember to look up for the Progressive Minds website, the PMSshow.com, or just type the Progressive Minds Show. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If you want to listen to our past podcasts, type in Progressive Minds on Spotify. Will pop up. That's how you can follow us. Very soon, we shall be having a live show on our website too. So please feel free to donate to us. We are a 501c non-for-profit platform. We're very concerned about community building. Agenda is our thing. God bless you. Have a good evening, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.